What's up, y'all? Been a while since I've done a video about barbecue, but since we've got July 4th coming up, I know a lot of people are going to be trying to fucking lay it down for their families, for their friends. You want to do a good job. Maybe you're not a pit master. First off, I want to say a little disclaimer. Sorry if you don't like the language. I don't care. Number two, sorry about the GoPro mic quality. I'm going to try to keep the GoPro in the same spot the whole time. That way at least it's consistently bad, because what I've noticed, and nobody complains, so thank you guys for your patience with that, but I've noticed that it's worse. Like if I start fucking turning the GoPro around and stuff, fucking piece of shit $200 GoPro, and the mic sounds like fucking I'm talking through my dog's asshole. Anyway, I've got my high-tech script here to try and categorize this stuff, and I've broken it down into about 5 things with subcategories that you can do to make sure your barbecue is a good success this year round. This isn't for only July 4th, but you know, fuck it. Anyway, let's get into it. Tip number 1, give yourself extra time. Plenty of extra time, okay? This is a pork butt or pork shoulder, same thing. Some people call it a butt, some people call it a shoulder. It's not the pig's ass, that is the ham. We don't make fucking hams except for, you know, when your 103-year-old grandma's making Christmas dinner. Nobody wants ham for 4th of July. Tip number 1, don't buy a fucking ham. Buy a pork butt if you're going to do one. You don't have to. We'll get to that. Point is, this pork butt is about 7 pounds, which is a pretty good size. It'll feed a lot of people. You can get them smaller than this. I would say ideally if you're feeding 4, 5, maybe 6 people, realistically, you think about it in your fucking brain. You've got a brain. Are you going to eat a pound of meat by yourself? Depending on how hefty your family is and how much they like barbecue is about, you know, you judge that in your head. Now I think in my head I eat, you know, especially because I like a pulled pork sandwich, maybe a half pound for me, maybe a quarter pound for the old lady, you know. So I'm thinking 7 pounds is probably enough to feed 10 plus people, assuming that you're making other stuff too. Now I got a big family that eats a lot, and I don't mean big in numbers. I mean, well, big in numbers, but numbers on the scale, big. So, but they're not big pulled pork people either. So this will be plenty for 10 people, easy. I'll have leftovers, I promise. The point is, now remember, give yourself extra. Rule of thumb is you need about 1 hour of cooking time per pound of meat. At least with something big like this. It's a little bit different with like ribs. I'll talk about that in a second. But like with something like this, if you've got a 5-pound pork butt, minimum 5 hours. I would give myself 8. Because the thing is, if you get it done early, you're in the clear. All you have to do, if it's done early, throw it in a crock pot just on the warm setting, put it in the oven on the warm setting, wrap it up, throw it in a cooler. You can leave this thing hot, sitting in a cooler or in a crock pot for 12 hours. It'll be fine. You can cook it the day before, throw it in the refrigerator, heat it back up the next day in a crock pot or in the oven or whatever, and your family, unless they are barbecue aficionados, are not going to notice the difference. They're still going to think it's good, and I'll talk about that in the next tip. So don't worry about trying to finish the pork butt right when everybody's just about to eat, because it's never going to happen. You're never going to finish. It's always 100% of the time, is going to take you longer than you think it is. Something's going to happen. Your fucking fire is going to die out, or, you know, it's just going to take a little bit. Maybe it's finicky or something. Maybe the fat's not rendering the way you want it to, because there is no fast route through this. If you do it fast, that's going to make it shit. Okay? There's a lot. You see all this fat in here. When you're making barbecue, now burgers and dogs, we'll talk about burgers and dogs at the end. When you're making barbecue, all of this fat that runs through this meat, which this is frozen so you can't see, I'll show you on the ribs. This all needs time to break down. It doesn't start breaking down until 170 degrees up until about 200 degrees is when it starts to get gooey, and then it's no good. Past that, you're making fucking mush, okay? So most people cook ribs to about 195. Most people, non-competition barbecue people, like ribs at about 200 when they fall off the bone. Anything past that, 205, you're not gonna die. It's fine. I'm just saying, try to keep it at 200. So you basically want not too much time, but you want the meat to sit from that 170 to that 200 range for long enough. If you rush through it, you're not going to render the fat down, and then it's going to be chewy, okay? Nobody wants to sit there and chew on fat. You know what that is? You know what chewy is? Tough in most people's minds. That's what they think. They think, wow, this meat is tough. This is not good. Anyway, so take your time, give yourself extra time is part number one. For example, I'm cooking this. My cookout's not until Saturday. I'm cooking this tomorrow. I'm going to spend all day cooking this. I'm going to make sure it's right, and then I'll either put it in the fridge overnight. I'm probably going to put it in the fridge overnight because I don't want to keep it warm overnight. I don't want it to get mushy. So I'll put it in the fridge overnight. All that fat will kind of solidify just a little bit more into like a lard. It won't be like this because it's already rendered once, and then I can just heat it back up the next day and serve it. Like I said, nobody in my family is a fucking food critic, so they're not going to know the difference. I'll heat it back up on Saturday. Everybody will be happy. People want to eat on time. They don't want to sit there and be like, and I've done this. I've made the mistake. You know, when's this going to be done? How much longer on the ribs? Blah, blah, blah. Sorry. Tip number 2, use the oven. If you do have a smoker, you've probably seen on a lot of these barbecue videos, and most of these guys will tell you, but some of them won't. You'll see, you know, guys will, they'll be cooking, and then they'll get to the point where they're like, okay, we're ready to wrap the ribs. And then they'll put the ribs back on the smoker for another 2 hours or whatever. After you wrap something, if you've got ribs wrapped in aluminum foil, they're not taking in smoke anymore. So my advice to you, same thing with pork butt, with ribs. I'm going to talk about brisket, but that's, if you're cooking brisket, you probably don't need these tips. You don't have to put it, the only reason they're putting it back on the smoker is just for the video's sake. And they're not trying to trick you, but it's just like, it looks weird if you put some, people want to see like, oh man, he's got it on the smoker, you know? It's just an aesthetic thing. There's no functional purpose. After you have gotten the initial smoke on the meat and you've wrapped it up, assuming that you're going to wrap it, I've fiddled around with wrapping and not wrapping. Don't worry about that. This isn't a recipe video anyway. However you're going to do it, once you've wrapped it up, once the smoke is already on there, if you want to put the oven on 220 and throw it in there, same thing. And what I like about it, especially with a big piece of meat like this pork butt, number one, I don't have to manage a smoker for 12 fucking hours. I only have to manage it for maybe 8 or something like that while I'm getting the smoke on the meat. Once it's ready to wrap, I know I can put it in the oven, throw a thermometer in it, put the oven on 225, and it's going to stay right at 225. There's no, you know, oh my God, do I need to put more charcoal on? Do I even need to add a stick of wood? No freaking out. Nice and easy. Man, I can't believe we're already at 10 minutes. I'm trying to do this quick, but I talk a lot, so. But that's 2 out of 5, so maybe we can be done in an hour. Let's see. For chicken, I don't personally marinate pork. I think it overpowers. I don't want pork to not taste like pork. I don't want pork to I want it to taste like ribs, like pork butt. I don't want it to taste like fucking soy sauce or whatever, or you know, Worcestershire sauce, whatever. So I don't marinate pork. Chicken, completely different story. You're not fucking 5 years old anymore. Your mom's boiled seasonless chicken is not gonna cut it anymore. Chicken is good because it's very versatile and everybody likes it, but it is bland naturally. Chicken needs a lot of help. Marinate your fucking chicken, okay? Marinate it overnight if you can, but at least for like an hour. Marinate it, season it well. I'm going to show you some seasonings that I like. I'm not too particular on chicken. The only thing I can say is marinate it and season it with whatever you like. I am going to give you a tip on it. So let's see. Oh, also, with chicken versus pork butt and ribs and stuff, things like chicken, steak, pork chops, burgers, hot dogs, sausages, not so much. Things that are lean, and I know people smoke chicken, but I don't think it's good, okay? And when I feed it to people, I tell you what people like, okay? If it is a lean meat, if it's not some big 7-pound hunk of meat, slab of ribs that's going to take all day to get it tender, if there's not that much fat in it to begin with, like a piece of chicken, grill it. Throw it on a charcoal grill if you have one. If not, put it on a gas grill. If not, cook it in the oven, and cook it on a good heat setting. You want to cook chicken not hot and fast, but you know, normal and good and hot to get it, because if you don't cook it hot, the skin's not going to be crispy. It's going to be all mushy. It's going to be like you want your fucking grandpa to be chewing on a piece of chicken skin gum for an hour? No, you don't. So with chicken, I use my Weber charcoal grill. I fill one side up with charcoal, nice and hot. That's my hot side, and then one side empty, that's cool side. I sear the fuck out of it, and then I put it on there, and it's done in 30 minutes. It's grilled, it's good. If you cook it too long, the little bit of fat that's in chicken, the little bit of juice in there just drips right out, and you know, sayonara. Some people like to smoke it. Like I said, I've never had smoked chicken that I thought I've had it not bad. Never had it anywhere near grilled barbecue chicken. So while we're talking about seasonings and marinades, a cheat code, sorry if this bag is loud, a cheat code for marinades, if you're not sure, and if you're not sure about seasonings, is, one second, Cheyenne moves the goddamn seasoning around every 2 seconds. Where is it? Here's one. Here's two. And here's my maple barbecue. Okay. A cheat code is, especially for your fat family that doesn't know anything about barbecue, everybody loves sugar, okay? So if you're not sure about a marinade, and this is what I'm doing too, something like this, Lowry's Hickory Brown Sugar, marinate your chicken in this, grill it, and they're gonna love it. As for seasonings, Um, this is pretty good. Grill Master barbecue seasoning. Um, this once again, and you don't want to make it too sweet, so try to be careful. If you do make something too sweet, you can balance it out by making it a little bit spicy, and then you'll have kind of like a sweet and spicy. If something's too sweet, then it's too sweet, but if you put a little spice on it, you know, a little bit of cayenne pepper, something like that, something light. You know, these white folks around here, they don't like all that spicy stuff now unless you're in Louisiana. So if you're talking about how white my family is, you can throw like some black pepper on it and they go to sneezing and shit. But put some garlic on it, like, oh my god, what is this? Did you got ghost peppers on this? It's funny, but everybody's taste buds are different. So like this has brown sugar in it too, but usually what you can do if you're not sure how it's going to taste, give it a smell. That's what I do. How it smells is because when you smell something, it kind of flies by your taste buds too. They're very similar scents. How something smells is probably how it's going to taste. So keep that in mind. Always smell everything. Put a little bit on your tongue. Fuck it. Don't snort it. This ain't party favors. This is seasoning. This will burn the shit out of you. It ain't going to keep you up. Another good one to use that pretty much always works, Lowry seasoning salt. This little bit of black pepper on just about anything, you cannot go wrong. Big barbecue nerds on YouTube, guys that run big restaurants, they won't tell you, but if you dig around enough and you find like videos of ex-employees that are willing to kind of sell the company's secrets a little bit, they'll be like, yeah, we use Lowry's. The shit's just good, okay? All that like, oh, I make my own seasoning and I put it in the shaker myself and this is a custom blend. 9 out of 10 times it's not. For pork, this is what I like. Bad Byron's butt rub. I've used a lot of different stuff. This tastes good, and one thing that I really like about it, because it's got chipotle powder in it and paprika, it gives pork. Now you could probably put this on chicken too, don't get me, just because it says pork, it's just fucking spice. You could put it on anything. Put it on your fucking on your wife tonight and see how she likes it. See how you like it. Spice it up. This gives pork a really pretty red color to it, and if you look up some of my cooks and you see where I use this stuff, you'll see what I'm talking about. On ribs and stuff, it just makes it look so good, and people often eat with their eyes too, so if something looks good to you, then it makes it taste better in your mouth because you're almost tricking yourself. Here's another one, which this one's almost empty, but I've been using it. Maple Barbecue by Grill Mates. They make a lot of this. The only one I would stay away from, and you don't have to, you could use it on chicken, but you just have to be careful, and this isn't something for beginners, is why I would say I would kind of avoid it, is things with mesquite. Mesquite is good and it smells good, but it is a really strong flavor. It smells good, and that's why people like it, and you can smoke things with mesquite wood and it's good, but you have to be careful because it's so strong that it can really, you know, overpower shit. Part number 4 is avoid hard cooks. Now, like I said, if you're making a brisket, you probably don't need what I'm telling you. I've never successfully made a brisket yet because it takes so long and they're so finicky, and you have to get a good one and know how to trim it just right. What I'm saying is, and I'm applying this to myself because I've done this before and I've made this mistake of like trying to make some kind of steak or whatever. Don't try and get into something that you're not comfortable doing. Don't try and smoke a 16-hour brisket unless you've done it so many times that you know it's going to be good. Otherwise, you're just wasting time and money for something that's not going to be good. And if you have one bad dish in your lineup, I think it brings everything else down. You know, if somebody gets a bad taste on their tongue, it just seems like it turns them off. So things like pork butt's pretty easy, especially if you get a smaller one. You get like at Walmart, I know you can get like 4 or 5 pound ones. Or what you can do, which you got to be a little bit careful with how you do it, but it doesn't matter too much because I've just been winging it. If you do get a bigger one and you don't think you're going to eat it all, before you cook it, cut it in half. You know, you're not going to hurt nothing. You know, just cut it in half and cook what you want to cook. It's fine. Just make sure it's big enough. I wouldn't make it less than like 5 or 6 pounds, to be honest, because you, like I said, you do want it to be able to be on there long enough to where, and be big enough to stand that heat for a good 6 or 7 hours. That way you get good smoke in there. Tip with ribs. My grocery store that I go to does not sell them, and it makes me unhappy. I know how to trim ribs, but I don't like to. These are pork spare ribs. Spare ribs are actually cheaper and better than baby back. People buy baby back because they think baby back, it must be tender. That has nothing to do with it. It's just a higher up part of the, or it's either a lower or higher up part of the rib on the pig. It's the same fucking thing. You're spending more money for less, as far as I'm concerned. But when you get spare ribs, you can get spare ribs that look like fucking dinosaur ribs. But what happens is up here, along this channel here, from here up, is little tiny riblet bones. And if you go to the hood grocery store like me, you can actually buy riblets. That's what some of the black folks like to buy. I've never cooked them, but you know, I'm sure they know how to make them real nice. So up here is little tiny bones that if you don't know how to trim them off, you know, people can be eating the rib and then get a bone in their mouth. That's a turn off. You see this? This is kind of a, I mean, this is just gonna burn up, and there's a bone right here. This is useless stuff. So what you can do if you go to the grocery store, if you see St. Louis ribs, remember, it's all pig, okay? The fucking pig didn't grow up in St. Louis. It's just a cut, okay? What St. Louis ribs is, that's when the butcher goes ahead and does the work for you, and they basically will square this up. It's the same, it's a spare rib that they just already went and cut for you. It's going to be nice and square. They're probably going to have taken, sometimes they take the membrane off, sometimes they don't. But taking the membrane off is pretty fun and easy to do. I'm sure you're going to look up, if you're making ribs, I'm sure you're going to look up a recipe, and that's like the first thing most people do. Some people don't do it. I don't know if it really makes a difference. I just like to peel it off. It's kind of like peeling a sunburn. It's fun to me. And then I think that peeling it off kind of lets you get some seasoning in on the backside, which usually doesn't get a lot of love. And then also that membrane just doesn't seem like it's fun to eat. Some people say it's not necessary. I think they're just kind of being lazy about it, but what do I know? So yeah, get St. Louis ribs, St. Louis cut ribs. If you can't find them, you know, you can get regular spare ribs and trim them, but it's a lot of useless meat. Last tip. Oh yeah, other easy shit. Chicken thighs, chicken legs, pork butt, you know, like I said. Last thing, if you're gonna do burgers and dogs, unless they're just for the kids, buy the good stuff, okay? Buy the good stuff. Get a thing of hamburger meat, make your own patties, get some, 1 second, let me get my pantry here. These are good, okay? Martin potato rolls. People see a burger on this, a handmade burger patty, a nice slice white American cheese or cheddar, whatever kind of cheese you like. I like white American on a burger, but some people like yellow cheese. Choice of toppings, that's going to turn people on. People like burgers and hot dogs. I have people come over to my cookouts and I'll make ribs and pork and shit that I know is good, and they'll sit there and tear up burgers and dogs. It's like, dude, you could have went to Wendy's if you wanted burgers and dogs, but people like burgers. It's America. So make sure when you make your burger, you got it on this, not this. This is a no-no. The fuck? Fucking beetle on the counter. Okay. Well, that's trailer living for you. So yeah, if you're gonna make burgers and dogs, get good hot dog buns, get all beef hot dogs, you know, or get sausages if you really want to go crazy. Same thing, but they taste better. Get hamburger meat, make your own patties, or buy handmade patties, but that's kind of wasting money in my opinion. It's not fucking hard to make a hamburger patty. Get good ingredients, get nice ketchup, tomatoes, lettuce, get it all out, ready to rock. Make it, if you're gonna make burgers and dogs, make the best burgers and dogs. But we've already been talking for 25 minutes. There's no way I can cut this down to make it any fucking shorter. So with that said, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a like if you did. I should have addressed this in the beginning. I know I didn't do the review on the Family Dollar smoker. I will do it eventually. I went to do it, and then I didn't put the fucking water pan on the smoker because I was testing some things. And the pork butt, it got a little bit toasty in there, and the pork butt started dripping fat on the fire, and I set the smoker on fire. Okay? That's what happened. I haven't messed with it since because I haven't been cooking a lot of barbecue. This is the first time I made barbecue in a little while. So, that's what happened. Eventually, I will review the Family Dollar smoker. I'm sorry I didn't do it yet. I didn't expect the video to get a gazillion fucking views. So, my bad. I don't get paid for this shit. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Have a nice day. Good luck with your barbecue. Leave any questions in the comments that you have, or any other tips that you can think of. And goodbye.